Hey everyone, Jennifer here. Today I'm talking about why I'm not buying a Canon R7. Before I get started on the reasons why I'm not buying a Canon R7, I just want to say that, surprise, I bought a Canon R6. Let me explain. Of course, like many of you, when the Canon R5 specs came out and everyone's minds were blown, I was dreaming of ever owning a camera that nice. When the R6 came out, kind of the same thing, right? Everybody eventually got onto that bandwagon, and I feel like more people talk about the R6 now than the R5 because of everything that's packed into the camera and because of what you are getting for the price. I didn't immediately jump into an R6 because it is expensive and I have a lot of stuff and I really don't want to spend a massive amount of money if I don't have to. I already had 2 camera bodies that were getting me by pretty good, and I like to have a really good reason to invest in something like that. I've been really waiting to see what was going to come out to replace the EOS R. There's a couple issues that I'm going to talk about that I have with the EOS R, and I really wanted to upgrade it, and I was mostly looking for something maybe in a similar price range, maybe a little bit more, even up to maybe $2,000. I didn't really have necessarily a budget, but I just wanted to wait. I didn't want to dump money into the R5 that's like, I don't know, $4,000, so much money. And the R6 is still pretty expensive at $2,500. That's an expensive camera body. So I just kind of wanted to wait it out since I was getting by with the EOS R and see what came out. Well, this is when the R7 came out, and I'm looking at this camera going, I think this is the upgrade to the EOS R, even though some people don't think that's the case, but that's fine. First of all, let's start with why I personally need to upgrade my camera. You might not need to upgrade your camera. I think that you should look into your personal needs to decide if you need to upgrade your camera. So for me, I really need 4K 60 for my weddings. That's something that I want. I do not have 4K 60 on the EOS R. I want IBIS. I might not use it that much. I don't know, because I've actually never had a camera with IBIS, but I'd like to have it as an option. I would really like to have better autofocus. More than anything, really, I need dual card slots for weddings and client work. Then, of course, you have C-Log 3 on both cameras, and you also have better 1080, because anybody who has an EOS R or knows anything about an EOS R knows that the 1080 is considered just really not great. When I'm looking at upgrading a camera, I'm trying not to look too far into the specs. I'm trying to say, what do I actually need? And of the things I mentioned, I've got to have 2 card slots and I've got to have 4K 60. Everything else is just kind of awesome on top. So this is where I get between the R7 and the R6, because they've both got dual card slots and they've both got 4K 60. And the specs on the video is pretty comparable. So you don't really have to sit there and be like, well, this is a no-brainer on the video specs. Photo-wise, I'm good. EOS R, honestly, I'm fine. Even though I know that the R6 probably looks a lot better, I don't think it's enough to matter for me. I may change my mind later. I've literally just bought this camera last week. But my point is, for me, I need to upgrade for video purposes. So let's talk about why the R7 is a grab for me. The camera's smaller. We're primarily looking to find something that we can use for wedding hybrid, meaning I'm shooting the photo in the video, but also my partner Kayla shoots video for me at weddings if I have a bigger budget wedding and I can afford to just have someone dedicated to video so that I can just handle the photo, which honestly happens more often than me shooting hybrid at this point. So I thought, this is a small camera and I've got a Ronin SC gimbal. I don't use it a lot, so I don't see myself upgrading a gimbal to something larger for like $800 or $1,000, where, you know, I could just use a larger camera or whatever. So for me, I'm not using the gimbal enough to upgrade the gimbal. So I was like, oh, that's a small camera that I could stick on that gimbal for wedding videos. That makes it seem really great to me, because the EOS R is supposed to fit on that gimbal, and it does, but it's rough and you really need to use like a pancake lens or something. So I know, I haven't seen the camera in person, but I know from seeing it online in people's hands that R7 is small. So that kind of excites me, because I mean, that's huge. The next thing, which really should be the first thing, because it's the first thing you consider, the camera is $1,500. For what's going in there, that's crazy. $1,500 versus $2,500. I was blown away when I read that. So that's obviously a huge factor that is a plus for the R7. I've also heard someone commented on one of my last videos that the IBIS is apparently better in the R7. Again, at this current point, I don't have IBIS. I'm shooting video handheld with no stabilization whatsoever. So any IBIS for me is going to be most likely 100 times better than what I'm doing. And some people don't even like IBIS. I might not even care for it. Point is, that's the next thing that I can really come up with that's probably definitely awesome and better for the R7. What are the factors that make the R6 better for me? Okay, obviously I know that it's a better camera or whatever. So for me, why is it so much better, or what's missing from the R7? Okay, obviously the R7 is not full frame. This is a bit of an issue for me. It's not due to the fact that I think I have to have a full frame look, or even that I think it's better. The problem here for me is that the R7 having the crop means that it limits what glass I can put on the camera. Like, limits down to, like, I probably would have to purchase a lens, which wouldn't be a big deal, but the only wide RF prime lens I think is the 16, and it's not a great quality lens. I haven't used it, so I can't really say that it's not any good. I'm sure it's fine, but that's another investment that I've got to make, and although it's a small one, do I really want to go with that lens on that camera just so I can have something wide enough to work with? I'd rather have something nice. I have good glass. The other problem is I'm not trying to invest in EF glass, so it's not like I want to buy something that's considered really nice, like maybe a 35 EF, and that's a big lens. It just, for me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. If I'm going to spend money on glass, I'd rather stick with RF. The megapixels are actually higher on the R7, which in turn, they say makes the low light performance in video not as good, which is why I'm guessing the megapixels are a little lower on the R6, because it's kind of like that hybrid camera, right? And that's what I'm looking for. I don't honestly care much about megapixels at all. I'm not the type of photographer who needs to blow things up or anything like that. So low light, that's a huge win for me in the R6, because low light in a run and gun situation like a wedding, that's my life. So that's a huge factor. One thing that's great that I did learn is that there is no crop in 4K on the R6 or the R7. Sitting in my office here, we're in full frame 4K with a crop on the EOS R on a 24-70, and I think we're probably sitting around 30. This is a pretty decent field of view, but if I start getting in here with the R7, and then again, I don't have a lens, so if I put my 24-70 on there, even at 24 with the crop, I don't know, that's probably 50 or 56 or something like that. That is way too tight for me to shoot YouTube videos. And yes, I still have the EOS R that I can shoot my YouTube videos on, so this is probably like the least of my worries, but it's still something to consider, because if I buy a new camera, I'm probably going to want to use it. And if the video is looking that much better than the EOS R, even though this is 4K, not 1080, I'm sure the 4K in the R7 is miles beyond the 4K we're looking at right here, which means I'm probably going to want to use it for my YouTube videos. So again, the crop in this room, I mean, I own this house, I'm not going anywhere. It's probably not going to be great for this room. So in the end, when I look at everything and I tell myself, okay, really this is about the price of the camera and having a crop or not. Am I willing to have the crop to save $1,000? That's really all that this boils down to. And I decided I'm not willing to deal with the crop, because for my workflow, it's going to make things so much more difficult, and it's probably going to cause me to have to purchase other things. And if I have to buy another lens, yes, I could buy a $200 lens, but I'm not going to be happy. So I'm going to have to spend another some $1,000 or more, and there's probably still, I don't think there's anything wide on the RF spectrum. Or I could get a 24-70, which is like $3,000. At the end of the day, I said, I'm just going to do it. But I do want to tell you something, and that's that I understand that when you go on YouTube and you watch these tech videos, especially when you're starting out, like I was starting out, looking at all the gear they're getting and saying, and they're like, you should buy this camera over this one. It's so much better, and it's only $500 more. It's only $1,000 more. It's going to be worth it in the end. And you're going, yeah, I wish. I totally understand the people that are sitting there going, I'm trying to save up just so I can buy a $1,500 camera, and you're trying to sit here and tell me it's worth it to spend the extra $1,000. You think I have $1,000 laying around. I get that, because you know what? There's times when you don't have $20 sitting around, right? I feel absolutely fortunate that I've been able to make enough money and earn enough money and save enough money to feel like I can spend $2,500 on a camera, because I know that everybody can't do that. So that's just my 2 cents for my workflow on why I bought the R6. I'm sure I'll be making several videos about it. Let me know what you think about my decision in the comments. Thanks for watching, as always. Peace!